attention, please. Yes.
I didn't even know. Yeah, those are the trouble me. You can tell. Yeah.
So, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to raise a toast to the birthday boy right here, or rather, as he himself suspects, for him to be roasted tonight. Okay? So get ready with all your thoughts, your memorabilia about things that none of us know about Dewey, so that we can have a big laugh out here. Okay? For a few of you who don't know me, by face that is, I am Dinesh, because probably Dewey also doesn't recognize me with this new face, who kept bombarding you with tons of emails over the past few months. So currently I'm teaching at the Indian Institute of Science, but my more relevant and fond self-introduction tonight would be as Dewey student from 1994 to 1998. The table assignments have been made based on the batches that have graduated out of Georgia Tech, but of course many of you are not alumni, who are friends, and you have been seated in a mixed way so that the students of Dewey have an opportunity to interact with you. Well, Dewey's technical accomplishments are far too many and far too well known for his close-knit academic and research family, which is present over here tonight. And a citation of these accomplishments should anyway be summarily read out at the prestigious SDM medal handover this week, and celebrated through the 3 technical sessions which are being held tomorrow morning, tomorrow afternoon, again on Wednesday morning, right? So at this festive dinner tonight, we'll not talk anything technical here. So we shall all get an opportunity to
I'm leaving.
Instead share some of the unique casual interactions with this gentleman of the moment, and illustrate how those interactions have impacted our lives in the long term, whether intentional or not. Before we begin passing around the baton, we don't have an actual mic, but you could use a virtual mic over there. Let me share a few tidbits of how tonight's get-together actually unfolded, because that's interesting as well. In fact, we have come a long way since June 2016, that's about 1.5 years back, when spread across 3 continents, Mohit, Ajay, who unfortunately is not here today, and I began secretly planning a project codenamed Dewey 70. Nobody seemed to know when Dewey was actually born. He kept it a top secret. But some of the dates in his autobiography were virtual giveaways to asymptotically estimate the date backwards. The fest trip was initially planned to be a standalone event, not part of the AAA SciTech, around the Mount Zion community in Tennessee, where Dewey's journey on this planet literally began. Once we had put together a master plan in this regard, it was my opportunity to bell the cat. Over a Skype call, I anticipated it to be a tough job convincing him to have this particular party. But of course, Professor Berdychevsky came to our rescue, because we had a fest trip for him in 2010, and we all really enjoyed it. I'm sure Dewey would enjoy this one too. Of course, we don't have the great music that we had at your party, but hopefully the roasting would compensate for that. However, when I talked to him and I anticipated it to be tough, he delighted and honored us with an enthusiastic, childlike yes, and giving his own suggestions on how to go about it. So the memorable Skype call, in fact, went on for a couple of hours with interesting anecdotes, and there was never going back for us. Having taken off at Clarksville as the potential venue and climbing over Nashville, our plan then cruised for the event to be co-located with the AHS Forum closer to his actual birthday in May, and finally landed at the AIAA SciTech for Lucky Kissimmee, thanks to Wenbin's suggestion actually. Big bro Carlos' powerful push made it all possible, Zara's enthusiasm, and mainly to Mayur, and Mayur to help us practically realize this dream. Thanks also to Vigor for quickly agreeing to Marilyn's request to have Georgia Tech sponsor this dinner. But at this point of time, I'd like to let you know that by Georgia Tech policy, alcoholic beverages are not allowed to be included on the bill. So those of you who are ordering beverages, soft drinks, coffee, tea, that's fine. It's on Georgia Tech. But if it's alcoholic, then it's on you. Okay? So let's hear three cheers. Come again?
On you.
It's on you.
It's not covering
On
the
the
food and you
individuals.
get the alcohol,
On the
yeah.
individuals. So, in spite of that, let's hear three cheers to the institution we all adore, Georgia Tech, and the alma mater for many of us. Hail Georgia Tech! Hooray! Dewey's self-professed guru, Victor, as I said, his own fellowship at Bochum in 2010 was indeed an inspiration for us. So thanks to Victor and many of the other stalwarts like Earl, because Earl actually has pushed the limits in terms of getting AIAA Journal to actually agree to a special issue, and based on the papers that are being presented at this particular conference. So thanks a lot, Earl. And yeah, Dave, of course, is going to be presenting Bob Armiston's talk, and that's going to be really interesting for us. I'm sure he will make it as colorful as Bob would have.
Bob
So that
said he has
means-
spies in
that
the
means-
audience.
Absolutely.
Make sure I don't make any mistakes.
Sure. Okay. And while thanking everybody, of course, I have to most of all thank Margaret to have sustained Dewey in the versions that each one of us know him. Thank you, Margaret. The ancient Vedic seers of India had declared Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Loosely translated, this means that the teacher is the creator of new knowledge and skills. The teacher is the preserver of our already tuned capabilities, and also, very unlikely in most teachers today, the dissolver of our past unsound learnings. Teacher is verily the supreme absolute, and we respect such a venerable teacher. So rare is such a true teacher, and many of us here, the former students of Dewey, as well as the current students, there are a few of them, the last few of the very rare breed, I would believe. And many of us here were indeed blessed to have enjoyed the privilege of studying with such a venerable teacher in Dewey. While his technical brilliance is too obvious to elaborate upon, the way he blends it with his humane heart is to be experienced, to be believed. And I'm sure all the students would agree on that. He strives to minimize the assumptions in his search for truth, the goal of life as I perceive it. So continuously that many a times it seems like an art rather than a conscious effort. Every interaction with him, formal or informal, has been a learning experience for me, which has been treasured throughout life. Keeping the formal ones for the next couple of days, where we have technical sessions dedicated to Dewey, I'd like to end my toast with a single past light-hearted exchange with him, which had a deeper impact on me than he perhaps intended. As many of you former students would easily relate to, in my weekly meetings at his office, Dewey used to excel in impromptu derivations related to our discussions. At the end of those discussions, he'd hold the tip of the paper, the sheets of paper on which he had done these derivations, raise his arm over the trash can, and pause for a few seconds, cheekily staring into my eyes. In the initial few weeks, I'd jump out of my seat to grab those sheets, before gravity could take over. Soon I realized that what would really help me evolve to the next level is to let the crutches drop and re-walk the path myself. That did change his mischievous smiles into appreciative ones. And that's brought me where I am today. So who'd volunteer to roast Dewey next by sharing such anecdotes? Please begin by introducing yourself and mentioning the years and capacity in which you are associated with Dewey. Next volunteer? Yes, please, come over, Vika. Thank you once again for the sponsorship.
Oh, thank you. Yes. I'm not going to roast Dewey because Dewey is my best friend. So I will only share good words about him. But before that, I want to make a very serious correction. Everything will be paid by Georgia Tech. So we have unlimited wines, we have unlimited spirit. So
Hip hip hooray for Georgia Tech!
Well, order yours first. Yes, order yours first. Yes. You ask us to share, okay, things we may not know about Dewey. Yes, I just want to add a few words on that. Yes, everybody knows that Dewey is a true scholar, a real gentleman with a very, very strong integrity, and the very best husband you can possibly have. Yes. But am I right?
We'll wait for her to roast.
Well, Margaret, you have your time to share the truth with us. Anyway, yes, I just want to add a few words. Yes, Dewey is the very best, not just on Earth, but also in space. So, because you do structures for space applications. Yeah. So by that means Dewey is the very best in the whole universe. Pardon me, okay, Earl? I agree. You agree, yes. Well, I'm pretty sure, okay, if not all of us, many of us read the very classic paper by Earl and Dewey some years ago. It has become a major reference in our field. Yes. Yeah, well, Earl, you have your opportunity to share more with us. Yes. So, I'm very, very excited about this occasion, and thank you so much for coming over to celebrate Dewey's 70th birthday. Dewey, I wish you and yours all the very best. Thank you. Yes. One thing that I do want to share with you, yes, we are here to celebrate Dewey's 70th birthday. If you would come after 30 years, we celebrate Dewey's 100th birthday. And again, by that time, everything will be fully covered by Georgia Tech, including your airfare. The very best. Yes.
Hey.
Thank you so much for taking care of Dewey the past many years. Thank you. So cheers. And please order your drinks.
Next, please.
Here you go, young lady.
The volunteer. Yes, sir.
Well, I do have a complaint. And I've been thinking about this for a very long time, and now's the time.
How's the time?
As was mentioned by Vigor, Dewey and I did write a paper. Although Dave Peters, as he reminded me, has an appendix.
I have an appendix in that paper.
That's right. Without Dave's appendix, the whole paper would have. But I first met Dewey when he was a graduate student, working with George Herman. Is that true? Yeah. And Dave Peters was also a graduate at Stanford, another school out on the West Coast. I don't know if you knew about this, by the way. This is sorry. George was at and I declined the honor. And a couple of years later, he went to Stanford, and he, of course, encountered you, and the rest is history. But what you may not know about the paper that you and I wrote is that there are two different paths. We were deriving these equations, and you could either use Hamilton's principle, or you could use Newton's second law. Now, anyone in their right mind would use Hamilton's principle, right? Who used Hamilton's principle? Who used Newton's second law?
I used it.
Yeah, right. I got snookered. That's why I'm complaining about it. I ended up with Newton's second law. And of course, the other equations did not agree at the end of the initial derivation. So we negotiated, right? And came up with some scheme about ordering. And finally, I think they more or less came together.
Oh, there's one term.
I don't want to hear about it. I don't want to hear about it. But I've had the privilege of knowing, I was going to say I know Dewey for as long as anyone in the room, with the possible exception of Dr. Peters. But it's been a wonderful friendship and a wonderful professional association. As Dewey constantly points out, he works in the exact sciences, where I occasionally descend into aerodynamics and combine structural mechanics with fluid mechanics. But it's been a hell of a ride, and thank you so much.
Thank you.
My friend and colleague.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Thank you. Next, please. Yes, Dave.
All right. Yeah, I first met Dewey in 1970. He was a Maoist.
Oh.
Because Dewey is passionate about whatever he's doing, and he's a very, very passionate person. And his career we, of course, went to Stanford together. Art Bryson was my advisor. And in aeroelasticity, they had a TV class I could watch from TV out at Ames. But Dewey went to the class that was taught me. That's right. So in the middle of the class one time, Dewey fell asleep. You know, class, right? So and the professor said, "Bring the camera down here," and the camera came down right in his big. He was a very white head even back then. It was very embarrassing, I guess.
Which I never knew about.
Yeah, until later on.
I was told.
Yeah, it's been when we clicked from the very first. We have a knack for finding mistakes in other people's papers. In fact, we thought we were going to publish a journal of misinformation. We were going to correct all these, and somehow we did that. But through the years, I was the one that got him to come to Georgia Tech. And then I left.
There's one more.
But you mentioned his integrity, and of course he has great integrity. And this is not a funny story. But one time I called him, because if there's anybody I would call at 2 a.m. to pray for me, it'd be him. And I said, "Dewey, here's a situation with some friends of ours. I want you to pray for them." And there was a silence. And he said, "I don't know them that well to really commit to prayer, but I will pray for you, David. I will pray for you, that you will be a kind of person who will pray for them." So that's the kind of integrity. He won't just say, "I'll pray for you," if he's not really going to do it. Cheers.
Thank you so much, Dave. Thank you. Next, please. Next, please, Victor.
Okay. Dewey was my first American friend.
Wow.
And when I came to the soil, he and we met. He felt like he must prevent all my big errors. And I give you one example. Once two Mormons came to our house and suggested have weekly meetings and teach us Mormonism. And I have to say that we were quite happy because after all, for us this was just free English lessons. And Dewey was very disappointed when he learned about this. He was concerned that I can fall under bad influence. And he suggested, and he asked me, could I come and challenge these Mormons? The Mormons agreed, and we observed a remarkable battle. Dewey won, and the Mormons never came back.
And you learned English.
That is not the end of the story. However, our religious study continued, but now they were led by Dewey. And these weekly meetings lasted for, I guess, more than a year, and they are all very memorable. I'm a bit ahead of Dewey, and I can tell him that 70 is not too bad. Actually, 70s have one big advantage. Your all obligations are over, and now you can concentrate on the remaining things which are most important for you. And I wish you to be successful in this endeavor.
Thank you.
Here, here.
Next volunteer, please. Yes, please.
Hey, I'm Bob Canfield. I've known Dewey since 1983. I really can't roast him, but I can tell you a few fond memories that I have of Dewey. He was my first supervisor after I had graduated as an undergraduate. Bob Ormiston hired me to work out at NASA Ames. And I worked for a couple different folks there, but one of them was Dewey, and eventually full-time there with Dewey. And I didn't appreciate it at the time, but I really do now in retrospect, how good Dewey was at being, first of all, a mentor to me, which he was. He was my supervisor, so I worked for him. But it was extraordinary looking back that he was also my good friend at the time. And there aren't many people that can strike that balance to mentor you as your boss and also to be your good friend. And I always felt like that with Dewey. Dewey taught me how to play squash. So he was a squash player. I never played, so we used to go play squash every week or so. And fortunately, since I never played, I wasn't that good, so it's always better to not win too many games against your boss, which I could not. Dewey was good, very good at squash. Dewey also had a weekly Bible study at work when we were at Ames that he invited me to that I really enjoyed. And so another reason I think I respect Dewey so much is that we do share a faith in Christ. That has meant a lot to me over the years. We have different backgrounds, and so it's led to lots of discussions between us on a regular basis, from which I've learned quite a bit. And so I've always valued that as well. And when I was working for Dewey, he was working on what they called GRASP, right? General Rotorcraft Aircraft Stability Program. So I worked with him on that. And so that involved, first he just had me doing the manuals. Right, so I had to do the software manual and the theoretical manual. So I got to see all the equations, though. Then he had me checking code, so I was debugging code that he and his group were writing. And I was there for 2 summers and a year in between, and pretty much a full year with Dewey until he left. I think the second summer is when you took a sabbatical, went to Germany. So then he was gone, and he left me all of these problems to debug and code, with full confidence. So I remember conversing with him a bit after he left, and then I graduated and went into the Air Force, and then he shortly after that went to Georgia Tech. But we maintained friendship over the years, also with his family. So I feel like Margaret is family as well, and knew his children growing up, and in fact went to the wedding of your first child. Yep. Your oldest at the wedding, Tim. Yep. And so it's always meant so much to me to have felt part of the family. In fact, you invited us over to dinner when I was first married. So I was married during the time I worked for Dewey. After my wife came out to California, Margaret, and he invited us over to dinner. And then we returned the favor. Glenda's not here, but she always tells a story that with trepidation. It was the first dinner she hosted with us as a couple, and it was for who I worked for. She was very nervous, and she always recalls how gracious both of you were. So anyway, it's with great fondness that I think back on the times that I had with Dewey, mainly in '83 to '84. But we've maintained almost an annual SDM lunch or dinner meeting, standing reservation whenever we're at the same conference. That has meant a lot to me over the years. So, Dewey, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. Margaret, you too.
Thank you very much, Bob. Next, please. Carlos?
What do you want to do? I'm respecting seniority.
Ah, okay.
My name is Bob Bless. I was one of Dewey's earlier PhD students at Tech. I was there from 88 to 91 as his student. I actually took a class with him as an undergrad. I took one of his graduate dynamics classes, and was so encouraged and excited about his teaching and the class that I asked if I could be his graduate student, and he was gracious enough to accept me. And so we had a great 3 years together during my PhD studies. Let's see. I was over there studying real hard how I could roast him, but it's so hard. But when I graduated, he told me that I could now call him Dewey, so Dr. Hodges. And I thought that was awesome. I go, right? That's like taking a real step. And he was he was great. Margaret and he both were great to my wife and our kids. In fact, we had our firstborn before I graduated. Margaret even made her a baby blanket, which we still have to this day. So we always look back on these things. But we would visit when we could. We left Georgia, but we came back to visit. And I went over and, hey, Dewey, right? And he says, and I think I met Margaret at the door. He said, Dewey's in the back. They're chopping down a tree. And I go out there and I see the back of somebody in a kilt. And I'm thinking, oh dear, I'm getting a little too close to Dewey now here. But it wasn't him, it was just a son-in-law.
You don't want to
Oh,
know.
yeah.
He's not related.
Oh, he's not even okay. But over the years, I've been able to keep in touch with Dewey and Margaret the whole time, our family. We're blessed, my wife and I are blessed to have 9 children, and they've gotten to meet all or most of them at this point. And we've got to see their kids grow up as well. And I've had a wonderful career sprinkled at least with dynamics problems, and I never work one without thinking of Dewey Hodges. I appreciate everything you've done for me. Oh, sorry. I also took a class from Dr. Berdichevsky.
But you didn't understand anything.
I believe it was after the 4th English lesson.
Yes, Carlos.
All right. We all
Thanks,
struggled
Bob.
with our class at the beginning. So I'm Carlos Sasnick. I was at Georgia Tech from 89 to 96, actually. But I graduated in 94, and we were I was after Bob and Mark Fulton, so I was trying to figure out my number here, 5 or 6 or 9. Yeah, so listen to some of these stories. This was the Dewey thing was a signature. Was really a very touchy moment on the graduation when this is something I'm doing so I'm a professor. For most of you know, but I have been in different universities. They have different styles about how you hood your PhD students, and they have a hooding group doing that. So you can walk with your student to the platform, and then you step down, and they go there, someone hood. And I was like, no way. I learned from this guy, and I thought it was such a touchy moment when you understand what you're doing and passing the responsibility and the rights and privileges they talk about, how that kind of goes to the next person. And I mean, this is so vivid in my mind. The day we did that was very nice. And then he comes afterwards and he does that. He said, "No, you can call me Dewey." It was I don't know if you do that every time, you continue doing that, but also it was a striking thing. It was super hard because his name is Dr. Hodges. I mean, Hodges is part of the name. It's not, right? Anyway, I try squash. I learned the meaning of handicap. So he'll give me all this big handicap of things that it never worked. I mean, the guy was so good. It was just virtually impossible to do anything with that. But I came from a place where we all knew the truth. It was the time of a 99.9% Catholic country. And then come to this guy here who started challenging me on my faith, which was really nice. I grew up so much as a person. I mean, academically, goes without saying, right? I mean, a scholar person who taught me so much. But beyond that, also as a person, in terms of questioning my faith and we engaged in so many discussions. So you gave me so many things to read, and I said, really? And so I went back and tried to better understand what was behind the things I was coming from. And this was very lively, and I participate on the Bible studies, like, they had at Ames and they had at Georgia Tech. So anyway, I think I own a life of gratitude for everything you have done that really influenced my life. It determined a lot of the things, the way I conduct my life, and I do my own activities, my own job, and personally as well. It was a privilege knowing you, working with you. It's a scholar and a gentleman, and I mean, that was wonderful. So thank you for everything. Margaret, thank you for having us in your house. And I mean, it was really special. My friend.
But this roast has just evolved into a lesson.
Oh, yes. Next, please. Yes, Simon.
See, I was right.
I wouldn't be able to recognize you on the Yeah, my name's Simon Shen. I started with Dewey from 1991 to 1995. Yeah, and I'm now working at Livermore Lab after a few years at UTC and 16 years at Aerojet Rocketdyne, and I'm just a normal engineer now, but it's not easy for me to become a normal engineer from where I came from. Yeah. Over the years, Dewey, it'd be very lucky if you have someone always in your heart, in your mind, to drive you, and as a role model. And I'm so lucky that I have Dewey as such a role in my life. That's why I say it's not easy for me to become a normal person from where I came from. Just one story may tell you this. I think the first year when I came to Georgia Tech, I went to Dewey's office. Dewey works probably 25 hours a day. Yeah. And people coming in and out, both from school and out of state, every places. And when we were talking, and there's a gentleman holding briefcases, obviously coming after long travel, coming to Dewey's store, and obviously he was more important than I was at that time. And Dewey obviously been sitting on his chair for a long time, and told me, could you see that this gentleman get some coffee? At that time, my English is in such a level that I always say yes. Then I try to figure out figure out what the question is. And then I went on to, he wanted me to make coffee. I barely know how what coffee tastes. How do I? So I came out to wander at the corridor. Coffee. Now, I do not know how I get out of the situation, but I did remember that I did not bring coffee to the office. I owed Dewey a coffee because at the time, really, I don't know how to make coffee. But one thing, over the years, I always told my son and other young guys, go ask. If you have a question, ask. We have nice secretary in the office. They should be able to tell me. I just didn't know how to ask. And Dewey, I owe you a coffee, but I know my doctor told me that that's not good for me. I assume it's not good for you either. So, I brought you California wine with the California hair. Thank you, Dewey, for over the years in my heart and in my mind, trying me go over the years become a normal person. And Dewey in our life. Thank you all. Thank you. And Denise, Mahit, for such a great event.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Simon. Next, please. Bogdan?
It's coming.
Hello, I'm Bogdan Polt. I was a Dewey student from 94 to 98. One thing that I wanted to share with you, 20-something years ago, I think it was SDM here in Orlando. 21, it cannot be after 20 and 98, so 97, 20 years. Right, so I didn't have a paper, and I didn't feel good to come here without the paper, and Dewey insisted, well, you should come. I mean, you at least see people, you see papers. I said, no, I don't know, I don't feel good, what I'm doing there without presenting. Dewey insisted, I said no. In the end, I changed my mind, but it was too late, so I couldn't find a room to stay for the first day, and we had to travel together in a car with other students. So at that moment, with this big heart, I said, well, we can share my room, so you can come in my room for that night. And okay, and I said, thank you very much. I went there. Well, if you wanna, I didn't know before that Dewey actually likes to sleep in very, very, very cold rooms. I mean, I was
Guilty.
I was under the blanket, and I literally saw my breath coming out. So it was. I tried to fold the blanket somehow. It was, but I survived. And so it was good. So the next day I moved, I think, to another room. But thank you very much for sharing. I have some more. So another thing that I carry with me from being together 4 years with Dewey is that he always encouraged me in what I was doing, and making me believe that I can do that. So I'd come to him with something, like, for example, when I was looking for a job, and I said, well, this job is in this field, and I said, well, I don't have that experience. He would say, yes, you can do it, not a problem. I mean, why? You learn that it wouldn't take you long. So, and that helped me a lot. I mean, I work in Flutter now. I didn't do Flutter as as a grad student, but I learned. Still helping me. I'm trying to start up a company, so I hope that's going to help me as well. So thank you very much to you. That was great.
Thanks for that. Mayur?
I did the same thing with him in a cold room. I was in Louisiana. What's
New Orleans.
New Orleans.
Yes.
No, it was hot and the place was so cold. We were sharing the room. It was freezing.
So, Carlos, I shared a room with him too in Boston. Does he do this with everybody?
He's just trying to figure out whether you will complain or no. If you don't complain, good. If you do complain, like, you're out next year. Thank you, Dewey, for everything you've done. I was there. My name is Mayur Patil. I was there from 94 to 99, or to 2000, because I did a postdoc for a year. I was one of your first students who did fixed wing aeroelasticity, and I didn't know better. I came in and I thought, oh, this cool, aeroelastic tailoring and composites, that sounds so good. And he was doing helicopters. I was in Georgia Tech, but I didn't know better. I said, no, I want to do fixed wing. I'm like, that's fine. Go get a TA, and you can do fixed wing, and then you write something. And I appreciate that, and I use that as an example for my students. You know, you can do what you want if you're ready to pay for it. You know, and he paid with time as well, and it was great. Going to squash, I had the fortune to also play squash with him, and I thought, okay, I'll take it easy on him. So we played, and I got 1 point, and he got 11 or something. So you're talking about handicaps. So for him, handicaps are like, okay, let's start you with 10 points and 11-point wins. So I said, all right, you're on. So after 11 points, and me sweaty, and he's right there at the center. He used to move just one step here or one step there. That's about, he barely moved. And I went all around the court like 100 times, and he won at the end. So it was a pleasure. Knowing things. When I came to US, it was a new place, exciting, and different from where I was. Also, the culture was different. I mean, undergraduate was very easy. I'm a good test taker, so tests were easy. Getting A's were easy. Research wasn't, which was very strange. Didn't expect it. For first year, I barely did anything. I felt because I was reading these papers, and since nobody had taught me anything, teaching, learning on my own was very difficult. And you're very patient. And, it should be very painful for me to go week after week not having anything. And you were always there, rederiving, trying some other way to get something in my head. And after a year or so, something broke, and things started going in there. And I appreciate it. People are talking about things they learned, and for me, it was the calm and happiness which were key, I believe, to me especially. And that's what I try to do with my students. Is going to work with you. Yeah, there's technical pieces to it, but it was a very calm place. In your office, you go sit there. The way you taught, the way you had this sheet of papers, your printer paper on the side, which you want to reuse, right? You don't want to waste the print paper, so you had that, and you had your ink pen, beautiful ink pen, and we start talking, and you start saying, okay, here's how you can do it, so to me it was educational, obviously, but it was the calmness, and it was all happy. I've never seen you sad, which is which is good. And you are always happy, always excited, or always looking at the good things, good side of things. And that helped me learn things much more easily. So really appreciate it. I hope I can be, 100th of the kind of advisor you are, but it helps me kind of know how to do things. And it's been very helpful to me. Thank you so much. Thank you.
I think Zara needs to leave early, so maybe has she left already? Oh yeah, please.
She left early.
Okay. She's lost her voice, so
She's lost her voice.
yeah, she'll write it over later. So next, please, Wenbin.
Okay, I don't know whether there are any students graduated between 1999 and 2002. I graduated 2002, so maybe I'm the next one. I started my PhD study with Dewey 1998. That was almost 20 years ago, and I wrote a card to him today saying that he's a great mentor, not only in profession and also in Christ. And he didn't directly influence me. Maybe it's because of experience with Sam. I come from the China and with that background. And but I'm kind of person that when I say something, I try to find out. So I would say that Dewey's technical influence in me, not as much as the influence in faith. I will give you a few examples. And I still remember back in year 2000, the Georgia Tech professor would like to fire 2 Chinese students. Then the Chinese students come to me, ask me to beg the professor, say, you say something good about that. Then I go to that person, what's the matter? That professor, I know him very well. And he said, these 2 students sleep in the classroom when I'm teaching. Say, Wenbin, can you do that? My answer is that I'm sorry, I didn't take any class from Dewey, Hodges. So that is, what I mainly did with him is a PhD and also research. But I'm sorry I didn't take a class. Then years later, he told me that Wenbin, how do I, skip you or let you pass, without taking any class from me? And the reason I'm saying the technical influence is that, as I said, he didn't directly influence me to be a Christian. But I think indirectly I become a Christian and also a strong Christian. I can give you another example. I had a chance to visit Professor Petchevsky in his farm, and we come to that topic. Then Victor told me that when your advisor tried before, he failed. So try to discuss, the existence of God and all that. I don't know whether you still remember. We drink the Japanese wine together. you mentioned about the Bible studies we had with you. And currently I'm a professor at Purdue University, and I'm also in charge of the Purdue Chinese Christian Fellowship. Actually, back at Georgia Tech, I became president for Chinese Student Fellowship there. And also this year, I'm going to start to preach in my church. So, and Dewey, thank you for all the influence you applied to me. I'm immensely grateful, and I appreciate it.
Next, please. Anybody? Any volunteers?
I want to take a break now.
Yeah. Okay.
Other people
Yeah.
can handle
Okay.
this after.
Maybe she after her.
Sure.
Yeah. Please.
So my name is Lei Hongli. I was in Georgia Tech from
Louder, speak up. I can't hear you.
Oh, okay. So I was in Georgia Tech from 2004 until 2008. Yeah, Dr. Hodges is one of my best advisor, and then I think he's not only the most famous scholar and also most great advisors. I learned not only academic from him, but also a lot of things the way he's working and the way he's to be a good professor. So I remember the first day when I saw Dr. Hodges, and then I talked to him, and then he showed me to the financial office in the department. So when we just left, go to the building, and then I say like, I'll open the door for Dr. Hodges and after him. And he said, no. He said, I should open the door for you because you are a lady. And then, so I say like, no, in China, the traditional is students open the door for a professor and we always follow the professor. So, but Dr. Hodges mentioned, no, here, you are now in America, ladies first. So after that, I just followed American rules. And every time, like, Dr. Hodges always like open the door for me, and I feel like he's so he does not have any like. It's not like the traditional in China is a professor, but he's a great professor. And then also I remember something like when I talked to him, and he said, I hope you are doing good in your PhD study, but I also hope you are not forget your family. So this is another thing. Because I remember when I doing like work in China, I just spend most of the time in my lab and forget everything else. But Dr. Hodges mentioned like, we want to be able to enjoy your life, your personal life, but also enjoy the work. So to be a balance in work and the life. So I do remember those very interesting philosophy in the American, and then the way like Dr. Hodges, and he also one time like he also we have a small talk, and then he also mentioned like I have to go home before 6 o'clock because I want to make my wife happy. And he mentioned, if Mama is not happy, and no one will be happy in the family. So I do remember, so Dr. Hodges is the way he balanced the work, but also balanced the life. So I really like it. So yeah, that's my story about Dr. Hodges.
Thanks, guys. We'll take a break, probably to have some food, and then we'll continue with the rest. But Zara would be leaving early, so she has requested us to pose for a group picture. So if you can just come over to the front end over here, we'll have a group picture, and then you can get back to your food. Sorry for the interruptions.